10 years from now, nobody in this room is going to have a job. Not because you've been replaced, but because survival itself could be guaranteed. Imagine a world where food, energy, clothing, housing are all free. Imagine a world where artificial superintelligence manages the systems that sustain us. And then here's the question. Without work, what do we do with ourselves? Do we simply exist? Or do we find ways to grow, to evolve, and level up as human beings? Now, this new world will not come easily. Many experts believe artificial superintelligence will arrive like a storm. First, dystopia, fear, disruption, inequality. But then maybe after the storm, a utopia, a world where we humans are free like we've never been free before. But herein lies the paradox. Freedom from work also means freedom from purpose. Now, I know work and struggle are not always the same thing, but for most of human history and for most people today, it is. In fact, work is actually survival dressed up like opportunity. So what happens when survival is no longer the mission? Do we become complacent? Or do we find ways to grow, evolve, and level up in ways that matter? To think about this distant AI future, I like to think about the past. I think about my great-grandmother from 100 years ago and describing to her my occupation in 2025. So maybe I say to her, "Dear great-grandmother, I am a remote digital analytics AI consultant." How many of you have ever tried to explain to your parents or grandparents what you do for a living? So maybe I switch it up. Maybe I'd say, "Dear great-grandmother, I have a mechanical magical mirror, my laptop, and I talk to people in distant lands on how to count their possessions which live inside of their own magical mechanical mirrors." I don't know how well that would go. Sometimes when I think about this distant AI future, I think about my distant ancestors. When they were hungry, what did they do? They probably had to go out and hunt a wild boar. Me, I just take a trip down to my magical palace, Trader Joe's, where the wild boars are already cooked, seasoned, sauteed, and ready to eat. To my ancient ancestors, my world of magical palaces and magical mirrors would seem like sorcery. And artificial superintelligence is sorcery to us. Now, this distant future is not empowering. There are many experts that believe that artificial superintelligence will cause us to become weak and dependent. And that reminds me of a book that I read as a child, a children's book called Lazy Tommy Pumpkinhead. And my daughters, they know about that book. And Lazy Tommy Pumpkinhead was a book about a boy who lived in an electric house managed by machines, run by machines. These machines bathed him, they clothed him, they fed him. And over time, Tommy became weak and dependent. And that book highlights what many experts think will happen to us. So here's the question. Will we become weak and dependent like Lazy Tommy? Or will we find ways to grow and level up as opposed to becoming weak and dependent? Because there is a model of what people do when survival is not the mission. Think about online games. In an online role-playing game, nobody brags about the coins that they hoard. What matters is leveling up. People take on quests, they take on missions, they form guilds. They become better today than they were yesterday. Perhaps life after work is the ultimate online role-playing game. Also in the future, it's predicted that success will not be measured in wealth, but in self-betterment. It won't be about what you own, but what you become. It won't be about climbing corporate ladders, but climbing personal mountains. It won't be about what you consume, but what you create. Maybe you decide to learn the piano, not for the money, but for the mastery. Every song, every scale becomes another level up. Or think about Wikipedia. Thousands of people writing and editing millions of articles. Again, not for the money, but because they desire to share knowledge. That's leveling up right now. And I have to admit to you all, I have to be honest with you, I've had to consider this myself. Years ago, I had a very lucrative job for a major technology firm, and I had an opportunity to go to a startup. It was the type of leap they say you should take if you want to excel your career. And within 3 months of starting this new job, I was fired. I remember walking out of the building with my box of possessions, thinking that I had made the worst mistake of my life. I had prestige, I had a great income, and now it was gone. And it scared me. But looking back, I realized something. That wasn't the end. It was an invitation. An invitation to reinvent, an invitation to reskill, an invitation to level up. And maybe, just maybe, that was always the point. For centuries, we confused survival with purpose. We worked, we produced, we consumed because we had to. But beneath that, something deeper was always there. The drive to grow, the drive to evolve. And in the age of artificial superintelligence, when survival may be guaranteed, that deeper purpose could finally rise to the surface. So, if the world gave you everything, money, status, if those things no longer mattered, what would you do to level up? Because the future will not be written by machines. It'll be written by us. How we grow, how we evolve, how we reimagine purpose. This could be humanity's next great adventure. Not to work, not to survive, but to level up.